I'm big with the brandy and the eggnog, you know. That's what I would have added to the great Opie and Anthony bit, the eggnog, Opie Anthony and Little Jimmy, right? Do you think those guys will ever get back together, do like a reunion tour? They should have like a one-off, you know, like a tour, you know, like the Police got back together. They should do that with great radio shows where everybody eventually, you know, just got sick of each other and went the other way, but the fans are still sitting there like, come on, man. Just do one more tour, man. They should all get together, you know. I think it'll happen. If Guns N' Roses can get back together, right? I don't fucking know. Anyways, what was really cool is it was mostly, you know, podcast listeners, so I could say whatever the fuck I thought, essentially, in these times, you know what I mean? Everything that's going on. You know, I heard like those fucking people were going down to the Comedy Cellar and then writing down what other comics were saying about Louis C.K. and all of that type of stuff. It's just so fucking, it's such a crazy time right now. You know, I don't know. I love Louis C.K., and that was really obviously just a fucking hard thing to see happen to somebody, and he was definitely 100% wrong. I'll just say this. He was 100% wrong. He did own up to it, and I think he will definitely be back. I will say that. And I also knew a couple of the women that he did this shit to, and I just feel bad for everybody. It's just fucking terrible. And I don't know. I don't know what else you say about it. I feel like I'm in a divorce where you know both the mom and the dad. You got to like pick a fucking side here. You know, I don't know. All I think that just this new thing though is like the level of witch hunt that happened when the Louis thing came out. Like the amount of fucking people that they went after was just fucking. It was like 6 degrees of Louis' dick. You know, to the point that even the fucking Huffington Post was even trying to like, you know, list people, the clients of the same manager that he had and stuff, who, by the way, is one of the great people I've ever met in life. I stand by my fucking manager, and I'm never firing the guy. I've been with this guy since 2006. Dave Becky's one of the great people that I've met in this business. I love that guy. I'd still have him over my house for fucking dinner. Watching everybody just, I think I remember this happening 15 fucking years ago, and then watching everybody try to burn down this guy's life. It's just fucking ridiculous. People, this is America. You remember due process? Like, the whole thing is just like, it's fucking insane. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going after Louis C.K.'s mailman, saying, if you deliver his mail, you're part of the problem. You know, and it doesn't seem to be like there's any sort of like, you know, in the judicial system, where there's like, if you steal a bike, you get this sentence. If you rob a bank, you get this. If you kill somebody, if you kill a whole bunch of people, all the way up to the death penalty. Yeah, this kind of seems like it's become, it doesn't make a difference if it's sexual misconduct all the way to sexual assault / rape. You know, you're getting the exact same, like, level of punishment. So that's only my question, okay, out of all of this, because he was definitely wrong, obviously. I mean, this is all obvious shit that I'm saying, but does the punishment match the crime? Because, you know, sexual misconduct, when you talk of sexual misconduct, like, I don't know how many podcasts I would have to do to tell you all the stories of sexual misconduct with just women, as a stand-up comedian who used to go out after his shows, selling his posters and all, and taking pictures with you, just the fucking women, okay? And I'll tell you, it was never any of the young ones. It was always these middle-aged fucking women, couple glasses of red wine. Oh, God, and they come at you with their va-va-va-boom energy, and you'd be like, oh, no, here we go. You know, that's my advice. Young male comics out there, young female comics, there's plenty of information out there for you now about watching out for creepy guys. But I don't think there's anything out there for young male comics. I will tell you this, okay? If you're going to go out and meet a crowd afterwards, when middle-aged women, you can tell they've had too much wine beyond the fact that they're sort of teetering on their high-heel shoes with their old feet sticking out of them. You just look for the gray teeth. all right, and a little bit too much makeup, and then they got the girls out a little bit. Just fucking watch yourself, okay? Because that's the old cheerleader who is not aging well and is freaking out that guys don't find her attractive anymore. And I'm telling you, they're gonna come up to you, cover your junk. That's all I'm gonna say. Dude, I had a woman lick my neck one time, and I'll tell you, worse than the touch of her tongue, her old ass, disgusting wine breath tongue on my fucking neck, worse than that was I felt her breath right before the eagle landed. Oh, gee. Oh, and forget about gay guys. Jesus Christ. I got to do another half podcast on that one. We're just talking about sexual misconduct. I always wanted to rub your chest. The fuck did you just do? I remember one time, and this is the thing about a guy. When it happens to a guy, it's just funny. Just for the simple fact that, generally speaking, you can overpower whoever the fuck is coming at you. I'm not a little boy. So I get why nobody gives a shit when this happens to a guy. I get it. I remember I was dating this absolutely lovely woman, beautiful woman. She danced on Broadway. She was such a sweetheart. I loved her to death, and I completely fucked it up because I was an angry young man. So I'm sorry to her, right? So she was dancing in this thing called Broadway Bears, which was like, they used to do this thing to raise money. It was like a burlesque show. So it wasn't like this creepy titty bar thing. It was just, if you ever go to a burlesque show, which my wife took me to one to see that Dita Von Teese, I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? She's going to take me down here to go see, basically go to a rated PG-13 strip club? I have the coolest wife ever. And then I got down there, and I think I was the only straight guy there, and it was like mostly gay guys, right? And that's what this Broadway Bears thing was. And it wasn't like the creepy Hooters vibe. So it's actually better if there's a bunch of gay dudes there, because I always did that whole, I like Hooters, strip clubs, titty bars, and all that shit. It's just like, that's something that's like fascinating when you're like in your 20s, I think. And then somewhere, if you're progressing, if you're maturing, at some point it just becomes gross, or at the very least, like, this is fucking stupid. I want to go out and get laid. I'm going to sit here looking at naked women who aren't going to fuck me. This is stupid. While losing a ton of money paying for watered down drinks. What? No, I don't want to eat in here. You're in the sex industry. Get away from me. I want to order some food, right? So I go down to this Broadway Bears thing, right? And, there's all these, it's fucking hilarious. There's all these smoking hot women doing their dances and stuff. And then there's all these shredded dudes. So all the gay guys are going nuts about the dudes. And I'm looking at all these women going like, oh my God, right? Fucking dancer legs. They were incredible, right? Oh, by the way, they also were really talented. Right? So the fucking show ends. And I'm waiting for my girlfriend at the time to come out. And this fucking, out of nowhere, this guy came up and just smacked me on the ass. And it wasn't like it was like if you were playing football, it was good game. But at that place, it wasn't. This guy wanted to fucking hook up with me. Dude, he hit me so hard, like I almost fucking got whiplash. And I fucking turned around, and I can't say what I said to the guy. But I made it clear to him that I wasn't gay. And I'll never forget, he just like put his hands up and was like backing away. And I remember when he put his hands up, the dude had these fucking guns. And I was just like, I don't know what this guy's thinking right now, but if he wanted to do something, I don't know if there's anything I could do about it. I'll never forget his big, hairy, gay arms just coming out. Oh, I'm sorry, I just fucking... No, he didn't even talk like that. I'm doing like the hacky gay voice. He had just like a regular dude voice. And, oh, dude, I got a zillion of those. Fucking zillion of those fucking stories. If we're talking sexual misconduct here. And you know what's funny? Is the reason I stopped going out after my shows wasn't all of those fucking witches of Eastwick drunk bitches coming up to me doing God knows what, right? Just crossing all kinds of fucking lines. Like you're a cartoon character. What made me finally stop was that time the guy went to take the camera out to take the picture of his girlfriend or wife, and a loaded 9mm fell on the fucking ground. And it was right on the ground, and I should have kicked it away, you know? All the episodes of Starsky and Hutch I watched, I didn't. I just froze. I pointed at the gun, and I went, dude, what the fuck? And I let him bend down and pick it up, and I just stood there. I've never felt more white in my life. So, anyways, people, I think it's a great thing that all of this stuff is coming out, because there's no way that women should have to be tolerating this. They've tolerated it way too long. But can we stop short here of, like, then trying to literally destroy everybody around the fucking person over social media and no burden of proof whatsoever? These are like real people that you're going after, okay? You know? These people that are around these people that have done horrible things. They have wives, they have kids, they have families, they have mortgages, you know? And just willy-nilly, oh, somebody just said this on Twitter, it has to be true, and just pile on and blow on the ashes and try to turn it into a fucking inferno is also not right. Okay? And I feel really bad for my manager and what the hell he's going through right now. I really do. And I'm not going to be one of these fucking people. And I hate how this whole fucking day and don't say anything, man. It's not worth it. Don't say anything. So I'm just going to leave this guy who's been a friend to me for fucking 11 years, guided me through my career. My career went through the fucking stratosphere with this guy. I'm just going to leave him twisting in the wind. Go fuck yourself. Dave Becky's a great guy. All right. Not enough women or gays at the cellar table. Oh, boy. Here we go. Oh, Red Dick Billy. All the controversy in stand-up comedy. He goes, I was hoping to get your take on an article I came across on Facebook called Tear Down the Boys Club That Protected Louis C.K. That's that witch hunt thing that I'm saying. Like, we had fucking meetings every week. All right, what are we going to do here? Say, we're going to... You know? And how everybody else, the second that... Evidently, everybody else on the other side, the second that Gawker article came out, you know, immediately took a criminal justice course and just became some gumshoe and went out and bought a giant magnifying glass and walked around looking for clues. All right, it's written by a gay comic who figures basically going after Louis wasn't enough, so he is trying to go after his peers also. Yeah, the witch hunt. The author cries about a certain table at the Comedy Cellar where elite comics like Chris Rock and Jerry Seinfeld sit. Like when the table came about, by the way, Jerry Seinfeld was still doing Seinfeld. You know what I mean? I don't know if they actually had a place called The Table. When I first started going to the Comedy Cellar, there wasn't a table. Comics just went upstairs and they sat all over the place. And I am convinced that the reason why the table was started was because of Patrice. Because Patrice was so loud and so funny, and he was just all over the upstairs. They were trying to somehow contain him. He was like Jordan, you know, you're not going to stop him. Let's just see if we can contain him. So I think they just tried to get us all seated in one area so they could at least be like, okay, sit down and fold your fucking hands and listen to the teacher, right? That's how I remember it anyway. So he goes, he also has never even tried to perform at the cellar himself. It's kind of like a fourth grader crying to the teacher because the cool kids won't hang out with him. The article implies that by not speaking up about it, the cellar comics were somehow protecting Louis, even though they were just rumors until recently. Also, the owner of the cellar, where are we? My fucking screen went dark. Sorry. Also, the owner of the cellar had some great things to say in the comments. Here's a link to the article and go fuck yourself. Yeah, I read it, and you know, to be honest with you, considering this guy is also a fellow comedian, I feel bad that was his perception. I feel bad that was his perception of what the table was because, you know, the table was like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, that was something like the level of pounding that you had to take. You had to go there and just basically get ripped to shreds. And then what everybody at the table wanted to do, and it wasn't doing it to just be mean. It was just, it was just this comedian thing. So you'd sit down and like you'd sit down with like whatever you were hung up about with yourself, and they would give another 40 things about you physically that you didn't even notice that you should also be self-conscious about. However, in the end, all they wanted you to do was come back at them and trash them back. And if you did, you were in, regardless. All right? And there was some epic fucking back and forths at that table. You know, and people definitely got mad sometimes, but the table wasn't like what a lot of people who didn't go to it think it was, like this big bullying thing. It was also this amazing thing where, like, I listened to Jewish people and Arab comics going at it, talking about the Middle East. I'd listen to Patrice and, Manny Dwarman, their debates. Colin Quinn was there, and if I remember correctly, tough crowd came out of those conversations at the table. And if you watched Tough Crowd, it'd be these comedians talking about these deep issues while trashing each other. And I always felt the table was inclusive as long as you were willing. You had to fucking walk the gauntlet. You just had to fucking do it, and you had to survive it. And then if you did, you actually became a better comedian, because once you got in at the table, then there was this thing, you couldn't not sit at the table. You'd come in and be, hey, Bill, come on. They wanted you to sit at the table because they wanted you to trash you, and then they also wanted you to trash them back. But, I wasn't even part of the elite crew. I wasn't funny enough. I just wasn't. Like as far as, this is just my perception of it, was the table was Patrice, Norton, Voss, Keith Robinson, Colin Quinn, and later on Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart, right? And even he was sort of like just like a rookie. But he also made it so fast that he didn't have time to fucking stay there. So that was like the Mount Rushmore of the table. And when you showed up and they were all there, and somebody had something on you, like that time, I, for 24 hours, said I would do stand-up on a bus on the way to a World Series game to get a World Series ticket, and I never even ended up doing the gig. I took a headlining set pounding that is still legendary. They told the fucking story on Opie and Anthony. I believe Kevin Hart and them all told the story, man. I got fucking destroyed. So this guy, like, suggesting that it was all, like, everybody was, like, there was this team of people. It wasn't. It was fucking cannibalistic. All right? And everything that they said in Opie and Anthony was 100% true, except for the fact that I did the gig, because I didn't do the gig. I actually gave the gig to somebody else, and with the vow of silence, I said, I will never tell anybody that you did this gig, because I don't want you to go through what I just went through. I think the guy who did the gig actually might have said that he was the one who did the gig all these years later, but I'm not saying shit who it was. So anyways, once you got in at the table, then you would go downstairs to go do your set, and one night, everybody at the table would be like, you know what, we're watching your set tonight. And you'd be like, oh, fuck. And you would go downstairs, you'd go on stage, and the crowd couldn't see all these fucking asshole comics. I remember they'd all be backlit, standing in the hallway, Patrice's big, dumb, stupid head. And you'd have to go up there and, like, just commit to your jokes as they were all standing there making faces of disgust, heckling, making noises. And one time I told the joke and it went good, and as I was telling the joke, I had the nerve to actually try to say something in a joke, and Patrice would just go, just do that fucking noise, and then they would all crack up laughing. Then the crowd would laugh like, what the fuck, and get a sense of, like, other comics are laughing at this guy. Should we be laughing at him and not respect him as a human being? And then you would just start bombing. And I'll never forget, I remember Kevin Hart went downstairs, and he went up as a 20-year-old comic and survived it and was barely affected. I mean, I know. And then looking at all the stuff that he's doing now, like, you really saw what he was made of. It was a great thing. The Cellar table is not what this person perceived it to be. And I feel bad that person, because having a fat gay guy comic there would have been great. There would have been a whole other angle. It was actually a really inclusive thing. It's just a lot of people weren't tough enough to get through it. And that's the truth. And it took me, like I said, like a half dozen attempts, because I was not a mentally strong person back then. And but if you see what came out of it, Colin Quinn's Tough Crowd, that was one of the most inclusive shows of all time, as far as like he gave almost like 2.5 generations of stand-up comics a TV credit. A lot of them their first TV credit. So I don't know, and I know someone's going to sit down and watch Tough Crowd and be like, oh, it was mainly white males, blah, 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 and all that fucking shit. So I don't know. There's no way to win this type of stuff, but I can tell you that I don't agree with this person's perception of it, but I don't have any anger towards that person for writing that, if that's what they think it was. But it's a little melodramatic. Burn the table down, like there's these meetings going on, and we're all sitting there trying to hold back his career or whatever. Patrice was getting banned from comedy clubs all the time. All the time, but he was so fucking good, they had to let him back in. It reminds me of when I read this Miles Davis book, and he was talking about Charlie Parker, and when he would party too much and pawn his horn and these clubs would kick him out, they'd eventually have to fucking bring him back in because he was the best, and Patrice was the best. And, you know, as much as he would drive him nuts, you wanted him around. You wanted him around. It's just like the comedy dropped by 40%, even with all the other comics still going there, if he wasn't there, and just the fun. And then they also knew that if they banned him, that none of the comics were going to hang out at their clubs. We were all going to go to where he was. Yeah, so then they would let him back into the club. And then they created the table. That's how I remember it. That's how I thought that we'll have them all, these fucking lunatics, just have them sit in the back at the goddamn table. So then we were sitting down, and it just, you know, it was just a bunch of dogs in a fucking pit. And then that's how the trashing was already happening. I remember one night, you know, after I took the pounding for fucking the bus gig that I never even did, I remember when Bobby first shaved his head, he came in. And I always respected him for this. He came in, he had like a hat on, and he sat down right at the the fat gay guy comic here. Listen to this story. He didn't shy away from the table. He fucking walked right in, sat down, took his hat off, and looked at everybody like, all right, give it to me. Let's hear it. And fucking everybody just, it was like a Def Jam bit. He took his hat off, and everybody just, what the fuck? He took this fucking pounding, and everyone was getting him, and he was just sitting there taking it, laughing, and all that type of stuff. And I actually thought he looked good with the shaved head, right? And what's his face? Who said it? I think it was Esty. Esty finally got him with one. I think she said, "You look like David Wells." I think that's what she said, and everybody fucking died laughing. And Bobby literally just stood up and just walked out. And I remember thinking, like, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could walk out. I saw Keith Robinson do that one time, too. We were trashing his clothes so fucking bad. And he was trying to fight back, and he was just feeling that wave was going to crash over him. He just fucking ran out the door, got in his car, and drove home to Jersey. And we kept texting him and calling him, going, you can't do that, you can't do that. He was like, oh, yeah, well, I just did, stupid. Fucking hung up on us, laughed and hung up on us. Oh, my God. I remember that fucking time Patrice, you know, somehow we found out he was home on a Saturday night. He just took like a night off. And Jim Norton fucking came in and said, you know where Patrice is right now? He's at home on a Saturday night, and they all called him up, and on speakerphone, Patrice just picks up. He's like, hello. And Jim's like, what the fuck are you doing home on a Saturday night? You don't have any gigs? And Patrice just fucking roared laughing, and we all over speakerphone trashed him. He was at home getting trashed at the table. And I just remember him he loved every fucking second of it. The table's one of the great things ever. So, don't listen to that guy.